She didn't know I had spent 40 years teaching Middle Eastern languages at Georgetown. And as I watched her laugh with her family in Arabic over dinner, calling my son the golden fool who would fund their escape from debt, I realized my life's work was about to serve a purpose I never imagined. My name is Robert Mitchell, and I'm 63 years old. For 4 decades, I taught linguistics at Georgetown University, specializing in Arabic, Farsi, and Turkish. My wife Sarah died of pancreatic cancer 3 years ago, and since then, it's been just me and my memories in our home in Arlington, Virginia. Well, me and the languages. I still read Arabic poetry every night before bed, Sarah's favorite. She wasn't Middle Eastern herself, but she loved the sound of the words, even though she never learned to speak them. My son Marcus is 32, a cybersecurity consultant for defense contractors. He has his mother's brilliant mind and my stubborn streak. After Sarah died, Marcus threw himself into work, barely taking time to grieve. I worried about him. Alone in his DC apartment, building walls instead of connections. Then, 6 months ago, everything changed. He called me on a Tuesday evening, his voice lighter than I'd heard in years. "Dad, I met someone." Those 4 words. They're what every widowed parent wants to hear, right? Your child finding happiness again, moving forward. But something in my gut twisted, even before I knew why. "Tell me about her," I said, sitting down in my reading chair. "Her name is Layla. She's from Jordan. Been here for 2 years on a work visa. She's an architect, Dad. Brilliant. She's designing this sustainable housing project for a firm in Bethesda, Jordan." Arabic. My mind immediately went to work. Mode the professor in me. Never quite retired. "How did you meet?" "Through friends at a networking event." "Dad, she's amazing. Beautiful. Smart. Ambitious. And she actually laughs at my terrible jokes." I smiled despite myself. "Your mother was the only other person who did that." "I know." His voice softened. "I think Mom would have liked her." We talked for an hour. He told me about her family back in Amman. Father was a civil engineer. Mother a teacher. Younger brother studying medicine. It all sounded perfectly normal. Perfectly respectable. So, why couldn't I shake this feeling? "When do I get to meet her?" I asked. "That's actually why I'm calling. I'm bringing her to Sunday dinner this week. If that's okay?" "Of course it's okay. I'll make your mother's lamb roast." After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my study, surrounded by Arabic texts and Persian poetry. Sarah always said I had good instincts about people. "You read voices the way other people read faces," she used to tell me. Maybe that's why I felt uneasy. Or maybe I was just a lonely old man who didn't want to share his son. Sunday arrived cold and bright. One of those November days in Virginia, when the leaves crunch under your feet and the air smells like wood smoke. I spent the morning cooking, falling into the familiar rhythm of my wife's recipes. The lamb, the roasted vegetables, the cardamom rice. Sarah had learned to make Middle Eastern food for my colleagues back when we used to host department dinners. Marcus arrived at 5, and I heard her voice before I saw her. Light, musical, speaking English, with that slight accent that marked her as educated abroad, probably at an international school or university. "Professor Mitchell, it's such an honor to meet you." Layla extended her hand as she entered my kitchen. She was stunning. Dark hair pulled back in an elegant twist. Designer clothes that spoke of money. A smile that showed perfect teeth. But it was her eyes that caught me. Beautiful, yes. But calculating. Like she was taking inventory. "Please, call me Robert. Professor makes me feel like I'm still grading papers." She laughed, the sound practiced. "Marcus told me so much about your work. Teaching at Georgetown for 40 years, that's incredible. 38 years, actually. But who's counting?" I smiled, playing the modest retiree. "What about you?" Marcus says, "You're an architect?" "Yes, sustainable design. It's my passion." She launched into an explanation of her current project, technical enough to sound legitimate, but I noticed she kept the details vague. No specific building codes. No discussion of actual engineering challenges. My colleague's daughter is an architect. I know how they talk when they're really in it. But I stayed pleasant, asking questions, playing the interested father-in-law. Marcus beamed, his arm around her waist, looking happier than I'd seen him since the funeral. We sat down to dinner. I'd set the dining room table with Sarah's good china, candles flickering between us. Layla complimented the food, asked about my research, told charming stories about growing up in Amman. Marcus kept looking between us, clearly pleased that his two worlds were meshing. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her perfect smile flickered for just a second. "Excuse me. It's my mother. She worries if I don't check in." "Of course. Take the call," I said. She answered in Arabic, walking toward the kitchen. I heard her voice shift lower, more natural, the polished English accent dropping away. And because I'm who I am, because I've spent my entire adult life translating between languages and cultures, I kept my face neutral and listened. "Yes, Mama, I'm at the dinner now." "No, it's fine. The old man is harmless." "What? Of course he doesn't understand. He's American." "Mama, they're all monolingual." Marcus was telling me about a project at work, but I was only half listening, focusing instead on the conversation happening 20 feet away. "The son is perfect. Exactly what we need." "Yes. Good job. Educated. Security clearance for defense work." "Mama, stop worrying. The plan is working." My heart went cold. I kept my face arranged in polite interest, nodding at whatever Marcus was saying about encryption protocols. But every nerve in my body was suddenly on high alert. She came back to the table, slipping her phone into her purse. "Sorry about that. My mother, she's a worrier." "All mothers are," I said smoothly. "Tell me about your family. Marcus mentioned your brother is studying medicine?" Her guard was down now. She thought she was safe, sitting at the table of a harmless old American professor who probably couldn't point to Jordan on a map. She told stories about her family, each one carefully curated to present the image of respectable middle-class respectability. But I was watching her now. Really watching. The way her eyes went to Marcus's watch, a Rolex his firm had given him as a bonus. The way she noted the art on my walls. The Persian rugs. Assessing value. The way she steered conversation toward Marcus's work, his security clearance, his future prospects. After dessert, while Marcus was getting more coffee, her father called. She answered immediately, standing near the window, her back to me, and this is when everything shattered. She spoke in rapid Arabic, thinking I was out of earshot, thinking I wouldn't understand even if I heard. But I did understand. Every single word. "Baba, it's perfect here." No. The old man is clueless, just sitting there smiling. "Yes. Marcus told me about the inheritance. The mother died 3 years ago, left everything to the son. The house in Arlington is worth at least $800,000, plus the retirement accounts." "I know, Baba. I know we need this. Your business debts will be cleared once I marry him. The visa expires in 8 months, so we need to move fast. Green card first, then we can access everything." "What?" "No. I'll stay married for at least 2 years to avoid suspicion, then the divorce." "Baba, he's so naive. He'll never see it coming. These American men, they're so desperate for a beautiful foreign wife. They don't ask questions." My hand was shaking. I set down my coffee cup carefully, precisely, because if I didn't focus on that small action, I might have stood up and started shouting. But I didn't, because 4 decades of teaching had taught me something crucial. The best defense is patience and evidence. Marcus came back, and I watched them for the rest of the evening with new eyes. Every touch she gave him felt like a calculated move. Every laugh, every adoring glance, all of it was performance. And my son, my brilliant, wonderful son, who had his mother's genius for technology, but unfortunately also inherited my terrible judgment in trusting too easily, had no idea he was being played. They left around 9. Marcus hugged me at the door, whispering, "Thanks, Dad. I knew you'd love her." I held him tight. This man, who was still my little boy, somewhere deep inside. And I wanted to warn him. Wanted to tell him everything I'd heard. But I knew he wouldn't believe me. Not without proof. Layla had been too perfect, too charming. If I told him now, she'd deny everything, play the victim, and I'd become the racist old father who couldn't accept his son's foreign girlfriend. No. I needed evidence. Undeniable, irrefutable evidence. After they left, I stood in my study, surrounded by the artifacts of my career. Dictionaries in 16 languages. Research papers on linguistic patterns and cultural translation. Letters from former students working as translators for the State Department, the UN, NGOs across the Middle East. I picked up my phone and called David Chen, one of my former students who now worked in immigration law. We'd kept in touch over the years. He still came to me for help with Arabic translations in his cases. "David, I need your help with something." Confidentially. "Of course, Professor. What's going on?" I told him. Not my suspicions, just the facts. My son was dating a Jordanian woman on a work visa. I wanted to know if the visa was legitimate, if there was any history he should know about. "Give me her full name and date of birth. I can run a background check through our legal databases." 3 days later, David called back. His voice was tight. "Professor, you need to hear this. Layla Mansour, that's her name, right? She's been in the US for 2 years, on an E2 investor visa, sponsored by an architecture firm in Bethesda. But here's the thing. That firm is under investigation for visa fraud. They've sponsored 17 foreign nationals in the past 3 years, and at least 8 of them disappeared after getting green cards through marriage. The firm takes a cut of the arrangements." My blood went cold. What else? Her family back in Jordan? The father's construction company went bankrupt 18 months ago. He owes over $300,000 to various creditors. The brother's medical school story? He dropped out 2 years ago. I can't confirm this next part legally. But a contact of mine in Amman says there's a whole network young women come to the US on work visas, find American men to marry, get green cards, then divorce, and send money back home. It's a business model. Can you prove any of this? Not in a way that would hold up in immigration court, without more evidence. But Professor, if she marries your son and then divorces him within a few years while claiming he sponsored her fraudulently, he could face serious legal consequences. His security clearance would be revoked immediately. Defense contractors don't take chances with potential foreign influence cases. After I hung up, I sat in the dark of my study for a long time. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about Marcus's career, his reputation, his security clearance. If Layla's plan worked, my son would be finished in his field. I had to stop this. But I had to do it right. Over the next month, I became something I never thought I'd be. A spy in my own son's life. It wasn't hard. Marcus brought Layla to family dinners every Sunday, still glowing with the happiness of new love. And every Sunday, I listened. She always took phone calls in Arabic, always stepped away from the table, thinking she had privacy. And every time, I heard more. Her father pressuring her. Propose a Christmas engagement. Americans love holiday proposals. Her mother coaching her. Cry when you talk about your family's struggles. American men are suckers for a woman who needs rescuing. Her brother, on speakerphone once, make sure you're on the deed to the house after marriage. Virginia is an equitable distribution state. You can claim half of everything in divorce. I started recording. Not the phone calls that would be illegal, but I wore a small recording device during dinners, capturing her Arabic conversations. I consulted with David about legality. Virginia is a one-party consent state, and I was present for the conversations, even if she thought I didn't understand them. Marcus remained oblivious. He was planning their future, talking about buying a bigger house, maybe starting a family in a few years. Every word was a knife in my heart, because I could see what he couldn't. She was scripting her responses, always steering toward topics of money and assets. Then, In early December, Marcus called me with news I'd been dreading. Dad, I'm going to propose. Christmas Eve, I'm thinking. I already bought the ring. That's wonderful, son. The words felt like glass in my throat. But have you thought about a prenup? Given your security clearance? And, Dad, come on. You're starting to sound like one of those suspicious old guys who thinks every woman is a gold digger. Marcus, I'm just saying. I love her, Dad. And she loves me. I know Mom didn't have a prenup, and you were fine. Your mother wasn't on a visa that expires in 2 months. The silence on the other end was sharp. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I just want you to be smart about this. Smart or suspicious? Dad, I really hoped you'd be happy for me. He hung up, and for the first time since this started, I felt truly alone. Sarah would have known what to do. She always had better people skills than me. I was good at languages, at the technical side of communication, but the emotional part? That was always her domain. I spent that night going through my recordings, my research, all the evidence I'd gathered. It was substantial, but would it be enough? The next morning, I made a decision. I called a family meeting. Not just Marcus and Layla, but I also invited Marcus's godfather, my old friend Thomas Wright, a retired federal judge, and David Chen. I told Marcus it was an early Christmas dinner. Nothing formal. Dad, this is weird. Why is Uncle Tom coming? And your former student? I just thought it would be nice to have family around. Your mother would have wanted it. Playing the dead wife card felt manipulative, but I was desperate. They came the following Sunday. Layla wore an elegant dress. Her engagement hand prominently displayed Marcus had proposed the night before, jumping ahead of his Christmas plan. The ring was stunning, easily worth $15,000. I saw her photograph it immediately, probably for her family back home. We sat down to dinner. Thomas and David made small talk, nothing suspicious. But I'd briefed them beforehand, told them everything. They were here as witnesses. Halfway through dinner, Layla's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, her father, and excused herself to the kitchen, just like always. But this time, I followed her. David had given me a small, portable speaker, Bluetooth connected to my phone. As she answered in Arabic, I pressed play on my device in the dining room. Her voice came through the speaker, clear and damning. Yes, Baba, he proposed last night. I know. I can't believe he fell for it either. The ring is huge, probably $15,000. What? No, I told you. I'll stay married exactly 2 years and 1 day. That's the legal threshold to avoid suspicion. Then, I file for divorce, claim half of everything, send it all back to clear your debts. Baba, trust me, he's completely clueless. His old professor father is too senile to see what's happening. I walked into the kitchen. She was facing away from me, still talking. The father? Please. He just sits there smiling like a confused old man. These American academics, they live in their heads, not the real world. He probably can't even remember what year it is, much less. Layla. She spun around, phone still at her ear. Her face went white. I need you to know something, I said in perfect, fluent Arabic. I'm not senile. I'm not confused. I've understood every single word you and your family have said for the past 2 months. I'm a professor of Middle Eastern languages. I've been fluent in Arabic for 43 years. The phone dropped from her hand. I heard her father's voice shouting from the floor. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his face confused. Dad, what's going on? Why are you speaking Arabic? I switched back to English, my voice steady, despite the fury coursing through me. Because, son, I needed to understand what your fiancée was really saying, what she's been saying every single time she takes a phone call. I played the recordings, all of them. Her conversations with her father about clearing his business debts. Her mother coaching her on manipulation tactics. Her brother discussing how to maximize the divorce settlement. Every calculated move, every scripted response, every moment of her elaborate con. Marcus's face cycled through confusion, denial, anger, And finally, devastation. Layla tried to speak, first in English, this is out of context, you don't understand, then in Arabic, begging me to stop, that her family would be destroyed. Your family? I said, still in Arabic. Your family was willing to destroy my son's career, his reputation, his security clearance, his entire future to clear your father's debts. You were willing to reduce my son to a green card and a bank account. Thomas spoke up, his voice carrying the weight of decades on the bench. Miss Mansour, I'm a federal judge, retired, but still active with the court. What we've heard today constitutes conspiracy to commit immigration fraud, marriage fraud, and potentially wire fraud if any money was transferred across state lines. I'm legally obligated to report this to the appropriate authorities. David added, I'm already in contact with ICE. Your work visa was sponsored by a company under investigation. This evidence will accelerate that investigation, and your visa will likely be revoked within days. Layla's perfect composure shattered. She turned to Marcus, tears streaming. Please, you have to understand. My family is desperate. We had no choice. No choice? Marcus's voice was cold. Colder than I'd ever heard it. You had a choice every single day. Every time you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me, that was a choice. Every time you planned our future while plotting your exit strategy, that was a choice. Get out of my sight. She left. Not just the house, she left the country within a week. David's contacts in immigration moved fast. Her visa was revoked, her firm's sponsorship was invalidated, and she was given 30 days to leave the United States or face deportation. She chose to leave quietly. The aftermath was harder than the confrontation. Marcus moved back home for a few weeks, too devastated to be alone in his apartment. We didn't talk much at first. He'd sit in the living room where he used to sit as a boy, staring at nothing, processing the betrayal. One night, about 2 weeks after everything happened, he finally spoke. How did you know, Dad? From the beginning. How did you know something was wrong? I thought about it carefully. Honestly, I didn't. Not for sure. But your mother always said I could hear what people weren't saying. When you learn languages, you learn that communication is about more than words. It's tone, context, what's left unsaid. Layla's words in English were perfect, but they were too perfect. Like a script. I'm such an idiot. No. I sat down next to him. You're a person who wanted to believe the best in someone. That's not idiocy. That's humanity. She was a professional. Marcus, this wasn't your fault, but I missed all the signs. The way she always asked about money, about the house, about your estate. You missed them because you were in love, or what you thought was love. That's what people like her count on. He was quiet for a moment. Did you ever doubt Mom? Wonder if she married you for the wrong reasons? Every day for the first year. I smiled at the memory. She was so beautiful, so smart. I was just a junior professor with student loans and a used car. I kept waiting for her to realize she could do better. What changed? Time. And watching her. She never asked what I made. Never pushed me toward higher-paying corporate work. When the university offered me a position in Dubai with triple the salary, she said no because she knew I loved teaching more than money. Real love, it shows itself in 1,000 small ways. The problem with Layla was, there weren't any small ways. It was all big gestures and perfect words. Marcus nodded slowly. I guess I wanted it so badly after Mom died. Wanted to feel like life was moving forward. Like I wasn't stuck in grief. I know. I put my hand on his shoulder. I wanted that for you too. That's why I almost didn't investigate. Almost convinced myself I was just a suspicious old man who didn't want to share his son. I'm glad you did. He looked at me. Uncle Tom said, You started recording her at Thanksgiving. That's when you knew for sure? That's when I knew I needed proof. For you, but also for the law. If she'd married you and then filed for divorce, claiming you sponsored her fraudulently, your security clearance would be gone. Defense contractors don't take chances with potential foreign influence cases. His face went pale. I didn't even think about that. That's because you're not paranoid enough for the world we live in. I squeezed his shoulder. But I am. 40 years of watching students navigate international relationships, marriages, visas. I've seen it all. The good, the bad, and the calculated. Not all of them were bad, though, right? Not every international relationship is a con? God, no. Some of my best friends are in cross-cultural marriages. Your mother and I hosted so many weddings for former students who found real love across borders. It's beautiful. When it's real. I paused. Your mother always said that real love shows itself in crisis. When things get hard, does your partner run toward you or away? Does she protect you or herself first? Layla would have run. The moment things got hard, yes, because she was never really there in the first place. We sat in silence, but it was a comfortable silence now, the kind that comes after hard truths. Dad, thank you. For everything. For protecting me even when I was too stupid to listen. That's what parents do, son. We see threats you can't see yet, because we've lived longer, made more mistakes. I stood up. Come on. Let me teach you something. Teach me what? Arabic. If you're going to date internationally again, and you will, eventually, it might help to understand what people are really saying. He laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in weeks. You're going to turn me into a linguistics nerd like you? Your mother would have loved that. We started lessons the next week. Not just Arabic, but the art of reading people across languages, cultures, contexts. I taught him what I'd learned in 40 years. That the most important language skill isn't vocabulary or grammar. It's listening to what remains unsaid. 6 months later, Marcus started dating again. A woman from his gym, born and raised in Maryland, whose parents were accountants, and whose idea of excitement was Sunday morning NPR and hiking. She was lovely, genuine, and wonderfully boring after the drama of Layla. When he brought her to Sunday dinner, I watched her carefully. Not for signs of deception I'd learned my lesson about paranoia, but for signs of authenticity. The way she helped clear the table, without being asked. The way she laughed at Marcus's terrible jokes, not because she wanted something, but because she genuinely found them funny. The way she talked about her work as a fourth-grade teacher, animated and passionate about her students' futures, never once asking about his salary or benefits. After they left, I sat in my study with Sarah's picture on the desk. I think I did okay, I told her. He's going to be fine, and I believed it. Because sometimes, the greatest act of love is not letting someone fall, even when they don't want to be caught, even when saving them means becoming the villain in their story for a little while. That's what parents do. We stand guard in languages our children don't speak, watching for threats they can't see yet. And when the danger passes, we step back and let them live their lives, knowing we did our job. The Arabic poetry I read every night has new meaning now. Sarah used to love one poem in particular, by Mahmoud Darwish. We have on this earth what makes life worth living. We have language, memory, and love that protects even when it's not understood. She didn't know I spoke her language that night at dinner, but by the time I was done, everyone knew what she'd been saying in the silence between her words. And sometimes, that's the most important translation of all.